What to do if your partner ain't trying to give up the goodies? Either or, it could be male, female, male, female, female. Like, what does that mean? First off, does that mean they're not feeling each other?
No, definitely not. I think that what you did to get the draws is what you need to continue to be doing. 10 years into the relationship. The swag.
20 years, 25,
the swag, the
years.
wordsmith, the wordplay, the looks, the glossy eyes, that still needs to, like, you don't seal the deal and then just like throw it all to the wind, because you did what you did what you did to get it, and that's how you got it, and that is the combination code to unlock her sexual animal.
Sexual animal. Sexuationship.
The sexuation. And I think I'm right.
But we need specifics. We need to have like a third person here, like in a situation.
I mean, I know,
willing to share and be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to be generic. Generic. There's everybody's different. Relationships are different. It could be all those things you said. Plus, it could also be just you tired of the person. You could still love somebody and just be bored and tired with them. So how do you fix that? Is that fixable? Are some people on an expiration date? Like everybody has their expiration date, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. And then after that time, shot o'clock. Let me keep my thought. You pour, I'm going to keep my thought. So on another podcast I'm on, I'm going to shout out Ty Watson because he brought up a good question at the end of our episode. It was episode 78. Check out Figuring Shit Out podcast, Ty Watson. I'm going to try not to fuck up the question. So at the end, we asked him, what is something you're trying to figure out now? Right? So that's our last question we asked our guests. And he said, and I'm trying to paraphrase as best as I can, he brought up the question of longevity in valueship of self-worth. Well, let's drink, and then I'll continue. Shot o'clock. So I gotta chase with water or I'll die. So, and the examples he brought up was sometimes in a marriage, or even in a job, or even in in any kind of thing, people's perceived value decreases over time, right? So let's say you're an executive. You good? Your throat's going off. Let's say you're an executive in a board or a founder of a board. Your company is public, and when you got board members, people could vote people out. And he was saying, why does it seem like a lot of times in those situations the founder is usually voted out over a certain amount of years, and it's like the founder's perceived value decreases to the point where it's enough for people to get rid of them. Same thing in a marriage, right? When you're married for a number of years, one spouse looks at the other person with lesser value over time. Now, his question was, is that something that all humans socially have to deal with? Or is there a way to prevent that? Or is that just how we operate, where our value is perceived to decrease over time? Like, is that our nature, or is there something that could be learned there to be prevented to where your value doesn't decrease over time, but increases perhaps? I think that was, he asked that question, and we were just standing there like, we don't got the answers.
I think I do.
Oh, okay.
Well, I have a great imagination, so I can imagine what that feels and looks like, and I
listen up, Ty. This is the answer right here. Here you go.
I feel like I have an understanding. Is to keep setting goals. Like, you don't become complacent in life. Like, you don't just get your 9-to-5 job and you work and you come home and you make dinner and you spend time with the kids and you go on your vacation and you take your time off and then you mow the lawn and then you go. Like, I think that both parties need to constantly be upgrading themselves constantly. Like whether you're taking a class, whether you're learning a new trade, whether you have a dream to go to like a distant country, like to constantly have a goal that you're both reaching toward. It can't just be one-sided.
Mm-hmm.
One person can't be,
The
you know,
dreamer.
doing something, and then the other person is just
Stagnant.
like still doing like the 9 to 5, coming home like just like
Stagnant.
boring. It's kind of, some people like that life, and they live like that till the day they die, and they like wear their moo-moos, and you know, he comes home and you have your beer and you watch a game. That's fine. Like if
That's like the American dream for a lot of people.
if you're fine with that, and you love your wife and you love your husband, you
They
love,
both got to be like that, though.
they both got to be like that, and they have to be content. But if you chose to be with someone who has an entrepreneurial spirit, if you can hear it.
Yeah.
If you're with someone who has an entrepreneurial spirit and that enticed you, like you have to be doing something for yourself. Like even if you're like a trophy wife, if you're a home, like you gotta keep your appearance up. You gotta be going to the gym. You gotta be doing something to keep the playing field level. Like you don't necessarily have to become a millionaire, or like as a woman, like, but doing something.
If I hear you correctly, you're saying constantly evolve, constantly change,
constant
for
evolution
the better. Because once you stagnate, and then that stagnation turns into a extended period of time, people could lose interest. Your value decreases.
Your value decreases. Yeah.
People could outgrow you, and then that's what a lot of people fall into, and in marriages, in jobs. There was another example he brought up. I can't think of it now, but it was like, it seemed like he had that question of like, is that something that we can prevent as humans, or is that something everybody has to deal with at some point?
I think everyone has to deal with it. I've seen it, like, I don't know, like in movies or maybe in real life, like where, I'm just going to use the man for example, like he, you know, they started off on the ground level, and they were both like riding for each other, hustling. And then,
Two dudes?
no, a male and a female. And then the man, let's say he comes up, and he's like, all of a sudden he becomes a figure of interest, and looked
VIP.
looked upon as, you know, a man of respect. And then he's like starting to look good, and then he got the girl who hasn't done anything, just being there for him, I guess. And then a lot of times people like that get a divorce, and then he ends up upgrading his wife or his girlfriend for someone who's more on his level at that moment. It's like just like a hierarchy thing, like to find your match, like, you know, vibrationally,
yeah.
or just whatever. Like your lifestyle change, you need to constantly evolve with each other. You don't just admire your person like, oh yay, good for them. Like you need to keep up with each other.
That's a real answer. I think that's a hack that most people don't. I feel like a lot of people get complacent and stagnate, and that's fine. But if your partner isn't that same type of person, it can get bad really quick, really fast. And I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that. That's human nature for one thing, but I think we're put here on Earth to constantly grow, evolve, improve over time, over periods of time. So if you're constantly doing that, that's not to say you're gonna have a perfect relationship or you know, a relationship that lasts forever. There could always be drama and bullshit that happens in between that. But it won't be one of those things where people just get bored with you. I think that's, you know, some of the things that can happen out there. So that was the question he had. Shout out to Ty for a super dope question. I didn't think about it, but we got the answer here. I think that's a dope answer. Now, in the case of like the C-suite or like founders, I guess when it comes to companies, the same thing can happen, right? Like you get voted out because your value is perceived less,
or they're old school. You don't have any new.
They're not. Maybe are they getting older, or they're not growing, or they're not innovating, and they look at you like, well, you're not doing anything. So in order for this company to move forward, we got to vote you out.
Same concept.
You know, and then you can humbly retire, whatever the case, sell your shares, you know, or whatever the case is. But I think if you're out there and maybe find yourself in a situation where you may be getting bored or something's happening, like talk about it, talk it out. and find ways to rejuvenate and stay fresh and innovate and improve and ascend and be all that you can be.